Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. When I heard about One Energy's Gemini extended range battery pack, I wanted to do some research on it, and I did. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what I figured out. So you guys may remember a while back this company called Our Next Energy, or One, which is a Michigan-based startup company. What they did is they took the battery pack out of a long-range Model S and then put in their own battery pack, which takes up the same amount of space as Tesla's original battery pack, but made the Tesla go 752 miles with this prototype. So they have developed a battery that is volumetrically more energy dense than any other battery pack. So the regular Tesla battery pack has a volumetric specific energy of about 250 kilowatt hours per liter, and theirs is about 450 kilowatt hours per liter. And so they were able to make a Tesla go almost double its factory range. And so yeah, so the original Tesla battery had a capacity of 104 kilowatt hours, and they have a 207 kilowatt hour battery. Sorry, the energy densities I said before were watt hours per liter, not kilowatt hours per liter. Okay, so how did they do this? It's very interesting how they did it. So the problem with lithium ion chemistries right now are either they're too expensive, or some of them have a lot of good cycle life and power delivery, but their energy density is very low. That's the case of this side. So what they did is they have two sides of their battery. They have one side which they're calling the power side, which has lithium, iron, phosphate, oxygen, and carbon. So this is basically a lithium iron phosphate chemistry. On this side, this is what they're calling the energy side, and this is their storage. This is where the energy, where most of the energy is going to be stored. And this is lithium manganese oxygen, which I thought initially was an LMO battery, which is lithium manganese oxide battery. But after reading some articles, I think it's more of a hybrid of an NMC and an LMO battery. But this is a genius idea. Here's why this dual chemistry battery is an amazingly good idea, and I'm not certain why someone didn't think of this sooner. And when I heard about it, it just made so much sense. When people drive, they usually need very little range most of the time. Most of that time, people are okay with like 100-mile range because they're just driving to work and back, and most people don't drive more than 100 miles a day. But every once in a while, like on the weekends or maybe once a month or something, people want to go on a long road trip, and that's why they want range. Even though 95% of the time, they probably don't need more than 100 miles. But people want like 500, 600, 700-mile range because once you factor in like highway driving, hills, ambient temperature being low, that real world range starts to decrease down, and people want like 300, 400 miles of real world range to feel safe. And it's kind of a psychological thing for most people. They don't really need it, but it just makes them feel like they're not going to get stranded, which is an important thing. Um, the problem with these LMO batteries is they don't have very much cycle life. So if you cycle this battery over and over again, it's gonna die fairly quick. Whereas this lithium iron phosphate has lots of cycle life. What they're doing is they're just gonna run the car most of the time on this, and every once in a while when you get on a long road trip, this battery will charge itself from this side of the battery and then deliver energy to your car. And so this side of the battery, the energy side, does not get cycled very often because most of the time you're just going to be using this side. Okay, so I saw this article from Car and Driver where they talk more about it. And the other thing is they recently announced that BMW is going to use this, what they're calling the Gemini Dual Chemistry battery, in its new luxury SUV prototype, and trying to get a range of about 600 miles, which would be the highest production range out of a production vehicle. Currently, it's the Lucid at like 520 miles. And if Aptera puts a 1,000 mile, well, of course, that'll be the highest range. This technology, because it's volumetrically twice as dense as any other battery pack, you could theoretically, if you got this type of battery in an Aptera, you could theoretically get like 2,000 miles of range, which would be completely insane. All right, so here's it is. The traction portion, or what they're calling more accurately, the power portion of the battery, is LFP batteries. They are much cheaper because they don't have cobalt or nickel or manganese or aluminum. They just use iron, which is very common, and phosphorus, which is fairly cheap as well. And lithium, that's the expensive part of that battery. But the prices of those batteries are much cheaper than the other chemistries. So you can see here, let me put this away. If you look at LFP, over the past year, of course, prices of lithium, nickel, cobalt have all gone up. So prices of these battery packs have gone up significantly. But you can see that compared to NMC and NMC 811, now we know that Eve Energy is producing the battery, and the chemistry they're using for the Aptera battery is the NMC 811, which is an advanced nickel manganese cobalt battery. It's gone up quite a bit. So it's twice as expensive as the LFP batteries. And then NCA is what Tesla uses. So these three are relatively the same price, but LFP batteries are much cheaper. So they're going to have an LFP battery that doesn't have tremendous range. I don't know how much range they're going to have. I'm guessing maybe 100, maybe 150, maybe 200 miles of range. But that's what's going to run the car like 95% of the time. Then they're going to have the long range portion, or what they're calling the energy portion of this, is going to be a proprietary material rich in manganese with only minimal cobalt and nickel. So that's the thing. The traditional LMO batteries don't have any cobalt or nickel, but these are going to have a little bit of cobalt and nickel, which makes me think that they're going to be somewhere between an NMC battery and an LMO battery. So you see the LFP batteries have lots of cycle life, and they have good thermal runway, so it doesn't go into thermal runaway until the temperature is quite high. NMC batteries and NCA batteries, this is what Tesla uses, and this is what Aptera is going to use, and this is what most of the other car companies are using. They have thermal runaway that's a little bit lower than lithium iron phosphate, but they have much higher energy density. Lithium iron phosphate has very low energy density. And so what they're doing here, the other thing that I found out by reading this article, is that they're using an anode-free design. So usually when they talk about the chemistry, they're talking about the cathode material, and usually the anode is graphite. But they're getting rid of the graphite anode, and that frees up a lot of space in the battery cell to add more power, more energy. And this is what those solid state batteries are going to be. The solid state batteries are going to be anode free. The problem with running an anode free design is that they run into dendrites and they short circuit if you cycle them a lot. And that's what my guess is that's what they're doing. My guess is that they're running this side of the battery without anodes to make it volumetrically very dense in terms of energy capacity, but the cycle life is going to be way lower. So maybe this thing's cycle life is only going to be like a few hundred cycles, 200, maybe 300. And so if you made an entire battery pack like that, this thing would die very quickly. But because you're rarely tapping into this side, even with 200-300 cycles, you could have the entire battery pack last for several 100,000 miles. 300,000-400,000 miles, because most of the time you're running this that has like cycle life of 2,000. and you engineer this battery purely for energy density. So they don't care about having high cycle life, and they don't care about having really high charge or discharge rates, because this is the side that's going to be performing all the power delivery. And you can charge this slower and discharge this slower. So if you optimize this for energy density at the cost of everything else, it seems like they have achieved extremely high energy density on this side, so that overall this thing has a very high energy density. The other thing that I found out is there's this company called 6K Technology, and they are partnering with Our Next Energy to create this Gemini battery. And what's interesting about this 6K company is that they have some technology that they're calling Unimelt. I don't understand it. I'm not a physicist. If some of you guys understand what this is doing, please put in the comments and tell us what's exactly happening. From what I understand of it, they're using additive manufacturing techniques by turning the metals into plasma and depositing them. So they can make very thin layers and control the exact ratio of the alloys to make better batteries. So they make these little spherules, and it looks like, the plasma. It's like a plasma gun, and it's like putting it on there. So the combination of optimizing this for energy density, using this plasma deposition technology, and getting rid of the anode, which kills the cycle life, but dramatically increases energy density per volume, you get a very dense battery while still offering good battery life for the overall pack, because most of the time, 95+% of the time, you're only going to discharge the power side of the battery. So we'll watch this, and I think that this is a great idea. And because after this company's made it, I expect other companies are going to start doing dual chemistry batteries. It just makes so much sense, because it's hard to make one chemistry fit all the needs that you have. But by combining two and having them work together, you can get kind of the best of both worlds. The other thing that's really good about this battery pack is because they're reducing nickel and cobalt, which are hard to find domestically and are very expensive, you can theoretically make this pack cheaper, and it has domestic sources. Manganese, iron, and phosphate are all easily accessible. And lithium iron phosphate is a very safe battery, and that LMO is also a very safe battery chemistry. So they have less thermal runway, and if you short circuit them, they won't explode or burn as easily as other chemistries. NCA and NMC are relatively safe, but definitely they have more of a safety concern to thermal events than lithium iron phosphate or LMO batteries. So anyway, hopefully that was useful for you guys. Please tell me what you guys think of the comments. Do you think that this is going to be a thing? I certainly think that it's going to be the way that the battery technology moves forward. Very exciting. I'm going to watch developments in this area with BMW and this One Energy, and we'll see if they can actually deliver a commercial scale battery that's cost effective and delivers on everything that they're claiming. Okay, well, thanks for watching, guys. And of course, I'd like to thank our sponsoring members and all of you guys who watch and comment. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.